So, what are we going to talk about tonight? What are we going to talk about tonight? Well. I can do this. Can I just hide this real quick? You know what? Don't even care. There we go. Fixed. Fixed. Problem solved. We got it. So, I'm going to try something tonight. And I was thinking this would be kind of fun. I not only wanted to do a discussion on guilds, but I had a lot of fun yesterday doing kind of an update for people. A lot of people don't follow Pantheon as closely as I do and some of the others, so they missed some of the announcements that happened. And I was thinking, what if I could do just a down and dirty, I guess not a lot of thought behind it, minute long kind of update on Pantheon. It doesn't have to be an everyday thing, but just every so often. And I was thinking I could start tonight. So, let me do this. Stop watch. Alright, let's see here. We want to do this. Okay. So let me think here. What do I need to mention? So for a Pantheon update, first thing I need to mention is 1, the stream coming up next Tuesday. 2, Ben, creator director for Pantheon, is offering streamers the ability to potentially get in with the devs and do guided sessions. And 3, I wanted to make an announcement about the VOT show, Voices of Terminus, and how they're doing some amazing things. So let's try to do a quick update here. This is really gonna be just kind of off the top of my head, and we'll see what happens. But all right, guys. I think I'm ready for this. All right, guys, welcome. So what we're going to do now is a Pantheon discussion in 1 minute time frame of all the updates and everything that's going on within Pantheon today. So for today, want to make sure that everyone is aware of the stream coming up on Tuesday, November 21st on Twitch. We're going to be looking at Code Carnage and Visionary Realms Twitch page for that. So please make sure you mark that on your calendar. Also, if you don't know about this, streamers, you might want to follow Ben Dean. Ben Dean is one of the Visionary Realms is communication lead, director of communications, and he'll be hosting some of our streamers with the dev team doing guided sessions and such. So please check him out on Twitter. Make sure you give him a shout out, follow him, and I don't know, get your name in there. Maybe you can get in there with the guided sessions. And then last but not least, guys, quick shout out to Voice of Terminus. These guys are doing an amazing job. If you haven't already checked them out on YouTube, definitely go check them out, and we'll see you next minute. Did I do it? I did it in a minute. It wasn't great. It wasn't great. It could have been better. It could have been better. But I did it in a minute. I did it in a minute. All right. Seriously, I am no rehearsal, no thought process. I've never done it before. I was like, you know what? I think I want to try doing something like this, and clipping it. So I'm gonna cut that clip. Literally, yeah, it is what it is. It's just a minute. It's just I'm gonna do I had a stopwatch going, guys, over here, just so y'all know. And actually, I stopped it a little late, but I hit it just on the dot, So, anyways. what are we going to talk about tonight? Well, first off, I will go into a little more detail on the announcements. If you haven't found out already, or if you're not paying attention, please, please, please make sure you're marking on your calendar November 21st. Visionary Realms is going to be doing their stream. They're going to do a making of Stormfast, kind of how the development of the city goes stream. First time we've ever seen the city, so make sure you mark that. And then we'll dig a little bit more into the forum, so I'll leave that open. And then we have, again, Benjamin Dean, or Ben Dean Reality. I'm sorry, at Ben Dean Reality on Twitter. If you haven't already followed Ben, make sure you go follow Ben. Ben is the communications director for Visionary Realms. And Ben is offering a really, really neat opportunity for a lot of streamers out there. He's doing a guided play session, potentially. So if you're interested in doing a guided play session on your channel, let him know. Of course, there's extremely limited availability for this, so if you haven't already, let him know. Make sure you get to him as soon as possible. Let him know that you're interested. Try to get on that streamer list for the next year. And again, guys, it's a really, really cool opportunity. For the people that get picked for this, I'm completely jealous of anybody that gets picked for this. I myself, I have hope. There's always hope, but at the same time, I know there's some much more qualified candidates out there for something like this. And because there's only so many developers that can take time away to do something like this, I'm sure that these are very limited in scope and availability. So, maybe my time will come, maybe not. If not, then I'll continue to watch everybody else that gets their chance and, be very jealous of them. So, regardless, I'm extremely happy to see opportunities like this come around for streamers. I think this is just phenomenal what they're doing, trying to reach out to others and really help promote the game through some of the community fans and streamers and so on. So, really cool, really neat idea. I'll make sure, let me do this real quick, guys. F11, if you haven't already, I'll post it in the chat there, just so everybody has that. So again, go follow Ben on Twitter. And then what did I have else up here? Oh, of course, yeah, Voice of the Tournament. So if you haven't already followed these guys, hey, I highly recommend looking up the VOT show. They've got, what, 90-something episodes now? What are we at now? What are we at, guys? 92. 92. And I know they continue to put out these episodes just consistently. So they've been doing this for a little over a year now. I think it's about a year and a half, almost 2 years. They've been doing these shows. And really, really great job they're doing on these. So if you haven't already checked those guys out, be sure to check them out and see what they're doing over there on in the VOT show. So, let's go back to the forums. Let's go back to what we want to talk about tonight. What do I want to talk about? Let's see. Let's talk Pantheon. Let's add something in here. Guilds. Guilds. Alright. Man. Where do I start with this? I'm trying to think of... So, I know there's a post out here. And let me go see if I can find it real quick, guys. Guild discussions. I like showing you this as well, showing you that you can find this yourself. This is information that's readily available to everybody. It's on the forums, it's out there, it's not something that's hidden or secretive. This is available to everybody. So let's see, I think it's under guild discussion. Yeah, there we go. He also made a really, really cool post, and it has some really neat factors in it, some things in it that, so anybody that doesn't know, my understanding is Kilson has been one of the has been a guild leader for a very long time in a numerous amount of MMOs, most notably within Vanguard. From my understanding, he was a very successful guild leader. With that said, I think Kilson is well equipped through years and years of experience to give some very direct and useful and vital information to the developers for building out what we need to be successful as a guild within Pantheon. And the reason that I bring that up is because um, I would like to see Pantheon allow guilds to completely maintain themselves within game. I am not a fan of having to maintain a website or another set of forms or yada 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 to actually have a guild that's functioning and communicating and knows what's going on. Is that good? Absolutely. It's for me it's one of those things where I'm not saying that having a website's a bad thing. I'm not saying that having forums are a bad thing. I'm not saying that going out of your way to set up, some social media for your guild and some other things for your guild. I'm not saying any of that's bad. I'm just saying I would like to see in today's MMOs, I would like to see the ability to completely maintain, run, coordinate, um, and do everything for your guild within the game. I would like to see the guild functionality within Pantheon completely viable for running a top tier raid or a top tier guild. A raiding guild, whether it's a progression guild or not, or a PvP guild, doesn't matter. Whether it's just a dungeon, questing, have fun, a social, casual guild. Whatever it is, I would like to see Pantheon have the ability to allow leaders to maintain, to run, to organize, and to coordinate the efforts within the guild completely within the game. Yes, of course, we're going to need some outside resources to stay connected when we're not logged in, but at the same time, I don't want it to be to the fact where I have to have a website to maintain my guild roster and applications and all this other stuff. I'd like to have a way to do that within the game, and I would like to have something that supplements that on the outside, such as using our Discord server, such as using maybe a website or something like that. I would like to have something that supplements what we're able to do in the game, but not something that is necessary for us to be successful, because the in-game features are not adequate to what our needs are. So let's talk about that a little bit. So I'm looking over this post and I'm thinking, for me, one of the things that I've been trying to do over the last few weeks now is think about what I want to do. And excuse me, oh, I'm running over cords here. I apologize. I about knocked my baby monitor off. For y'all that don't know, my 2-year-old is sound asleep right now, and I keep an eye on him as he sleeps until I go to bed. So I'm over here running over cords and stuff. I apologize. All right, so back to what I was saying. So over the last few weeks, I've been thinking about the guild that I'm looking to run, and in short, this is looking to be kind of a social guild. That was what I was planning on doing. It is a social guild that really we have casual raids, casual dungeons. And when I say casual and social, I'm using this terminology because when I think of hardcore, I think of a very strict structure, I think of very strict recruitment, dependent on needs for raids and pushing progression. I think of very strict timelines on when you can do what. Very, very tight, military-oriented type of guild where you have responsibilities and you're held accountable for things that you're doing or not doing to help the guild move forward in progression. That's what I think of when I think of a hardcore. Now, when I think of a social or casual guild, I think of someone who can potentially do the same progression. Maybe not as fast because maybe they don't spend as many hours on it. Or maybe not as efficiently because they don't require they have X amount of members on at X amount of time, and they don't require that. Oh, you're our guild cleric. Okay, great. You're required to be on 4 hours a night, 4 days a week, and here's the time slots in which you're required to be on. That's a hardcore. To me, a casual would be like, hey, cleric, can you be on these nights? If not, or if you don't feel like raiding, that's fine. But if you would like to raid with us, we would really love to have you there. And in reality, there's no real consequences for them not raiding, and there's only benefits for them raiding. So with a quote unquote more hardcore or more structured progression guild, you would see maybe consequences with them not participating in a raid that night, or that one night that week, or if they got on and they really just had a bad day and weren't feeling like it. Sometimes that might not be an acceptable excuse for missing out because you're letting the team down, things like that. Again, guys, that's my opinion on the two various types, and I'm not saying either one is right or wrong, because if I didn't have a family commitment, if I didn't have work commitment that could drag on, or change the mood of my day and things like that, if I didn't have real life things that could affect me gaming as much as they do, then I would definitely look for something that's a little more structured, a little more rigid, a little more progressive in the fact that I'd like to be one of those, I don't want to say top tier, because I think that you don't have to be a very dedicated raider, quote unquote, to be top tier in an MMO. I think top tier in an MMO is based off reputation in my mind. I think top tier in an MMO is somebody who's standing in a city and everybody knows their name, whether they're the most friendly person in the world. Maybe they sit the newbie section of the game and they literally just throw buffs on somebody, or on new players all day long, and everybody needs to know their names. That to me is a top tier MMO player, a social god, if you will. Somebody who is highly respected, looked at as very knowledgeable and important figure in the community. That to me is top tier in an MMO, a successful MMO. And then of course, people are going to argue with me on that all day long, and I understand. Yeah, a top tier raider is a top tier raider. A top tier player, to me, is more of a personal thing. Their character and things like that come into play with that. So all that said and done, for me, I've been thinking a lot about the guild and what I want to do with it, and where we want to go with it. And I do mark it in the more casual realm, but I do also want to look to progress in ways. I want to be able to organize and coordinate the efforts of the guild so that we can have some structure around it, but it's not like tight lines. It's more of a loose it's more of a loose offering, a request, if you will, for guild members to join us and to participate in certain events and things like that. And for me, if I'm doing it right, I'm making it fun, I'm making an enjoyable experience, and people want to be a part of it. If I'm doing it wrong, then people are gonna not really want to be a part of it. So that's the way I see it. If I don't make it a requirement to be there, to be a part of our quote unquote raiding corps, if instead I make it a request, and I make it to where you're having as much fun as I am, and you want to be there, then I feel like I'm doing something right. I feel like I'm being successful, but at the same time, I'm not, really holding you to that rigid schedule. So I consider it a little more casual, but I do want to have some progression within it. And then I'm talking about my personal preference for my guild. So thinking about this, I'm trying to figure out, well, how am I going to manage this? How am I going to make sure that we as a guild are able to log in and know what's going on, and when it's going on, and how things are progressing within the guild, who's who type of thing. Of course you have ranks within guilds. That's kind of a standard piece of MMOs nowadays, but you also have some different variations of things that have been done on websites versus in game, more so than not. And I've seen some actual comments or replies to what Kilson posted here as must-haves that people really didn't find they were necessary. One of the things that I was a little bit surprised about myself, this right here, I saw a lot of comments about the guild calendar not being necessary. A lot of people like having that outside of the game itself, keep track of, and I get it, because you can log into it or view it without having to log on. For me though, I really want the guild calendar to be within the game. Does that mean that there's not going to be a way to find out that information outside the game? No, 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 no. I think that that's great. I think every guild should have some ability to communicate outside the game, and whatever it is, whether it's a website, forums, or Discord, or whatever form of communication it is, I'm more than happy to see that. But what I want to see is when I log into the game, I'm able to see a very clear, easy to read map of all the events that are going on. And I know some of the MMOs of late have really done well with this. But I saw a lot of members that really didn't appeal to them. And then that kind of struck me as odd, because me as a leader, I think that, again, managing this in-game is the best place to do it. I want people to log in. I want people to be active. I want people to enjoy playing the game. I don't want people to go do whatever they want to do, over here, and literally just look at their phone and go, oh, raid time's at 8. I don't really feel like logging in because I don't want to play, because as soon as I get on, I'm going to have to deal with politics. I'm going to have to deal with drama. I'm going to have to deal with helping somebody out. I don't want to log on because I don't have to deal with all that. I just want to log on, do the raid, and then log off. I would much rather people log on and just hang out. I mean, for me, I look back at the old games, and the community was just so strong, and we just enjoyed being around each other. So I want people to enjoy logging on, and if it comes to the point where they're literally just looking at a calendar on their phone to say, oh, when's the raid time, I'll log on 3 minutes before it just to make sure I'm there, that's not where I want to be. I would much rather be to where I have a core group of friends that are logging on as much as they can to enjoy being around each other. So again, for me, the guild calendar, I love that it's a must-have on this list, and I'm hoping to see it in the game, because I really think that it's better maintained and organized through the in-game materials, and if it's done right, it should be presentable. It should be it should be nicely done so that we can utilize it as a guild. So I'm excited about the guild calendar. There's a few other things though too, and I haven't seen. Of course, I know there's other MMOs that have probably done things like this, but there's a few other things here. So let's see. Let's go down the list here. I'm just gonna go from the top to the bottom, and we'll just kind of say, I'll give my thoughts on what I think of these, and then from there we'll we'll kind of wrap it up after we're done with this list. And if we have some comments or questions or something like that, something you wanted me to elaborate on, please let me know. But again, this is based off of my interpretation of what I need from my guild, and my guild's of course different than any other. Every guild is unique to itself. So let's start from the top. Ranking structure. Guild leader, raid officer, officer recruiter, etc. For me, I'm hoping we can change the names. I know it's silly, but I don't want to be known as guild leader. I don't want to be known as guild leader. I'd rather be known as, like, I don't know, just the founder or something like that. Or I don't know. I'll make something silly up. Who knows? Cloudmaster or something. Who knows? Just something silly, something not as formal, as structured. I want something a little more loose, a little more enjoyable, a little more just, I don't know. I want to feel a part of the team, not like I'm just there to lead the team. I want to feel more a part of it. When I think of that, I think of like a CEO that walks into the office and their desk is in the middle of the office, and everybody sits around them, and they walk in, they got blue jeans and like an Hawaiian button-up shirt, and they're just one of the guys. They're hanging out. They're down there working all day long, and you walk into the office as somebody from the outside world, and you don't know the difference between any of them because they all look the same. They're all just, they look like everybody is the same, and that's the type of office that, or guild, that I would like to run, is where you look at the guild and everyone reflects each other. You don't know who's who based off of just looking. You actually have to ask somebody, hey, who's the guild leader? Oh, hey, this guy. Hey, who's a raid officer? Who's somebody that might know something about something, like that I need to ask? Oh, that's so and so. And again, internally they all know who is who, but externally they just look like one big family. There's, of course, you might be able to see a little bit of a hierarchy based off of, just communication to them and who they are. But at the same time, they all kind of blend together. They're more of a close-knit family. They all share kind of a common interest, a common thought, and you can really tell that they're a group of friends. And that's the type of guild that I would like to see. Not so much they're a recruit, they're initiate. They're not really a part of the guild yet. They're not a member status. They're just kind of trial bases, stuff like that. I'm not big on that. Some guilds need that because, like I said, they're a lot more structured, and they need those trial periods and things. But for me, that's not the case. For me, I want it to kind of blend. So I'm hoping we can change the ranking structure a little bit, or the naming scheme of it. I would like to see us be able to kind of fluctuate that, have some fun with it. Permission system, of course, permissions going with ranks. I think that this is an absolute must. I want to be able to make sure that whoever I have helping me out with the guild can actually help me out with the guild. When I come to, when I go on vacation or something like that as a guild leader, I want to make sure my officers are fully capable of running the guild and organizing anything they need to organize, updating calendar, updating permissions, updating ranks, inviting new members, yada yada yada. I want to make sure that the guild is able to continue to move forward without me having to be there the entire time. That's the goal there. So permission system, absolutely. An easy to use interface, a simple layout that possibly incorporates a tab system. Yeah, absolutely. 1 second, guys. There we go. But yeah, no, absolutely. So the way I think about that is basically you're pulling up a little screen, and at the top of the screen, you have the guild name, and then maybe on the left hand side you have guild online or have a tab for online, a tab for I don't know. Let's see here. What's going on the list? So you have a tab for messages, a tab for online, a tab for, I don't know, class information, who's who. Hey, Mass, what's up, man? Hey, Mass, if you want to jump into this, you're more than welcome to. Just kind of chatting to myself here. And I love chatting to myself. I love talking to myself. Don't get me wrong. I love talking to myself, but so much more enjoyable with somebody else. So you're welcome to jump into Discord if you'd like, man. But again, looking at the interface of it, something simple. Absolutely agree with this. I think the tab system can work. It might get a little. I would hate to see it like 30 tabs, but if they can find a way to organize it and to really nail it down to where it looks nice and works, and that'd be perfect. Oh, Mass, man, you're good. No rush, no problem. Like I said, if you like to, you're more than welcome to, but not requiring anything. Okay, so then we have guild management and raid management, tab and menu. Okay, so this would go into the interface. So if I'm thinking about it, when I look at the interface, I would look at maybe I have an admin page for guild management and a menu. That makes sense. And then I'm also looking at it, maybe I have a raid page. Maybe I can put signups for the raid. Maybe I can put members or needs for the certain raid and stuff like that. Maybe I can send out invites from a raid management tab menu or something, something like that. I think there's a lot of possibilities with that. I like that. That makes sense to me. Sounds pretty good. So yeah, so far we got a ranking system, permission set up. That makes sense. We've got a nice little box with some tabs up top to allow us to sort through. Hey, Mass man, thanks for the sub. But we got a nice little tab menu up top here, so we're looking at the interface. A few tabs up there. We got guild management and raid management. It's 2 of the tabs, and a few others. I like that. And then let's see here. Find a guild list tab. Advertising an easy to use interface for anybody to search for any guild and see if any recruiters are online. Ask questions or just okay. This I'm hoping is done right. I like find a guild. So if I'm thinking about it here, because this happened in WoW, and it was abused. To be honest with you, it was just flat out abused. WoW did it to where, if I'm not mistaken, because it's been a couple years, but I remember it being quite annoying. Um, WoW did it to where basically the biggest guilds got put on the top of the list. I don't know how they're going to do this, but I would like to see this done in some way, shape, fashion, form, to where there's filters on this find a guild that really narrow it down to what you're looking for as an individual, as a player. I would hate to see it to where it's just like 3 boxes. Check here if you're looking for, check this box if you want a progression guild. Check this box if you want a casual guild. Check this box if you want a social, or let's see. Check this box if you want a hardcore. Check this box if you want a casual. Check this box if you want a social guild. Like, I would hate to see it just broken down in like 3 categories, and then them just put a giant list of things. And yeah, of course, PvP, roleplay, PvE. Like, I would hate to. I mean, if you're on a PvE server and you click PvP, if there's ways for you to PvP in it, then awesome. If not, then I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. But I mean, if they do it for one server, they're going to do it for all of them. My assumption for the guild find, for the find a guild list. So yeah, I like that, the tag system. So basically, what you're saying is, use hashtags, type thing to label who your guild is and what you do. Or, I don't even know if you need hashtags. Maybe just allow us to really check off a bigger list, a filter list of what our guild is and what we're there for. Again, give us a good 20 possible checkboxes that help us filter out what guild we want to be a part of and what we don't. I don't know. I have very limited ideas on this right now. I'm drawing a blank on it, but I mean, I can see the list in my mind. I pull it up and I have like, so let's just think here. So I have, what do I want to see? I want a guild that's focused on dungeons. I want to focus on crafting. I want to focus on dungeons. I want to focus on raids. I want to focus on leveling. I want to focus on roleplay. I want to focus on, I don't know, exploring. Maybe exploring is one. I want to focus on questing. I'm a keeper. I love questing. I love going to find things with the perception system. I want to focus on that. Or maybe I'm a progeny guild. Maybe this guild is really built around the progeny system and using it and continuing to just level over and over again. I don't know. Give us some options, though. Give us some ideas. Give me a day and I'll have a list with way too many options. I'm right there with you. I've literally read over this list and I didn't think about any of this what I'm talking about now. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head with ideas here. But I'm the same way. If I sit down for an hour tomorrow when I'm a little more awake, alert, alive, I can guarantee you I would come up with a list that's a mile long and it would just be ridiculous. But finding a way to limit that down into just some aspect that allows you to filter through the guild list. I'm assuming, we're probably going to see anywhere from 100 to 1,000, that being the extreme. So 100 to 1,000 guilds on the server, we'll just say. At the extreme end, I would say 1,000 guilds. I don't want to pull up a list of 1,000 guilds and only see the quote-unquote biggest guild at the top down to the smallest. Again, I would much rather filter it down to what I like. So if I have 20 options, I would hope that in any one of those combinations, if I had 1,000 guilds, I could at least out of those 20 options narrow it down to the top 50, or the top 60 or something like that. But anything over like 50 or 60 guilds to choose from based off of what I want, and then I'm not really sure that that's really doing what we want it to do. is the list of suggestions or list of what they're aiming for. This is a list. So this right here is from Kilson under the general guild discussions. So this is the guild discussion form or post under general guild discussions in the forums, and this is a list. And if I'm not read this right, this was posted or pasted from PJ Pantheon. I believe it's a website that got shut down. So Kilson took this over and pasted it, and this was a bunch of his ideas on quote-unquote must-haves. Which, again, I agree with most of these. I really like him. I think that he did a really good job. I'm just kind of talking about him a little bit more in detail, thinking about how I want to run my guild and what I think is needed for mine. These are not guaranteed in the game. These are kind of again Kilson's community manager, guild leader hat that he's taking the community manager hat, putting it aside, putting the guild leader hat on, and saying, "This is what I would like to have in the game," and this is what he's going to pass over to the developers to say, "This is what I think we need." And then there's like 6 pages, of people with comments and ideas and things like that, where he's just basically gathering feedback to give to the devs as well. But here's the start of it. So we'll start here, and we'll probably end here tonight as well. So let's see here. So we have the ranking system, the permission system. Both of those go hand in hand in my mind. An easy to use interface with both, in guild easy to use interface, as well as an easy to use find a guild interface. So yeah, the find a guild piece. I really hope that we have some more filters, some more ways to really narrow that down to get that right selection. Let's go to the next thing. Here we have notes. Allow us to make notes next to members' names. Also tag an alt, main, recruit, date, etc. You know what? If I'm thinking about it, don't forget to take the blanket off. I won't reply to that. Anyway, sorry, my wife texted me. Alright, so notes. Officer only notes should be a thing. Absolutely. Here is my thing on notes. If you want to go to the next level, if you really want to take Pantheon, in my mind, and bump it up one notch for guilds, from other MMOs, I don't want to just see a square box for notes. That's just me. Now, if I see a little square box for officer only notes, like at the bottom of what I'm about to describe, that's fine. But more or less what I would like to see is, when I pull somebody into my guild, let's say Mass. Let's say I invited Mass, and Mass, you've joined my guild, and I go to my little raid screen, or my little guild screen, and I got a tab, and it says players, and I click on the players, and I view the list, and it has Mass, because you're the only person that joined my guild, because nobody else likes me. And I click on Mass's name, or I look beside Mass's name, and beside it, I would like a little edit button. And I would like the little edit button, or notes button, whatever you want to call it. I'd like to be able to click it, and then it go to another tab, and at the top of it, it have Mass. And then I would like it to have a few fields for me that I can fill out to really kind of distinguish who's who. Now, this can be predetermined fields based on what Pantheon decides, or it can be they can allow us to fill these fields out ourselves. Maybe up to 10. I don't know. Maybe we have up to 10 selections. So how is this done? Well, one, when I click on it, I would like to be able to maybe set up, let's say the predefined fields. So I see Mass's name. I click on the edit button, and then to the right, maybe it pops out a little list of things, and I can edit this list, but it's based off of field entries. So it has Mass's name, and then below that I have rank. Okay, cool. And then below that I have I don't know, permissions. Okay, cool. Only I can edit those. Only I can see those. And then maybe below that I have let's see here. I have a selection. Maybe it's a checkbox. Maybe 3 checkboxes for main, alt, or yeah, main or alt. Maybe I have 2 checkboxes there. Main or alt. Boop, boop. So I can click whether he's a main or an alt. And if I click alt on the section to the right of that, so again, I'm trying to visualize this. I'm going down it. So I have little fields, and then I click 2 checkboxes. One says main, check. Nothing else needs to go there. One says alt, I hit it. When I hit alt, I then have a drop down of all the characters in my guild, and I can select which one of those is an alt for that character. Or I can just type the name out, whichever way is easier for Pantheon. Again, it doesn't have to be overly complicated. If they just gave me like basically ways to break down those fields a little bit, that'd be fine. I just don't want a giant box just so you can fill out information. I want it to be more of a, I want it to be more of a structured bits of information. That's me. Invited me? What are you, insane? Guild ruined. I just read that, sorry. Yeah, okay. So yeah, it's basically giving it a parent key. Basically if I hit main, I'm giving it the parent key, the parent ID. If I hit alt, then I'm giving it, again, I'm getting that drop down list, and I'm saying, okay, here you're an alt, you're an also, I have mass over here, then I have bass, and then I have, you saw where that was going. So I have I click on bass and I say alt, and then I click the drop down and I say, oh, here's mass, and I click on mass. And so once I hit mass and I show that it's an alt, I then can go to mass as an, I can go to mass's name. Every time mass logs in, it shows in the guild roster that mass is online, and then in parentheses it shows his alt's name, to let you know that this is mass, this is his main, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. I'll go into that, but this is mass and this is his alt that he's on. But just know mass is on. He's just on this character instead of his main. Then you would have to have the ability for nicknames, for something like that. You'd have to have the ability to change that main name for your players in your guild, something to that effect. Maybe that's too complicated. Maybe that's asking too much. I don't know. For me, it seems pretty simple. You could start out with it being their main character, whoever their main character is. That's who they are, essentially. That's who they've chosen to be. If they say their main character is a character they don't ever play, so be it. I mean, if I make a character, let's say I make a cleric, and I call him Sacred, and I get max level, and I get playing him, and after a while I'm just like, not really feeling it. And then let's say Necromancer comes out, and I'm like, oh, sweet. I'm going to make Sacred 2. And I go and make Sacred 2, but I have Sacred as my main. And then for the next 5 years, I don't play Sacred ever anymore. I play Sacred 2. But every time I log on, it shows that Sacred, my main, is my name. So I'm kind of in the guild, I'm going by that main name. So if you just, in my mind, if let's say Mass got on and he made a hunter or ranger and or whatever, and he gets to level 10. All right, cool. So Mass got a ranger to level 10. Well, that's his main. Well, he got tired of playing the ranger, so he went and played he went and grabbed a warrior and named him Bass. And then he leveled his Bass all the way up, and now he's been playing a warrior ever since. From like a month into the game, he's been playing a warrior, and he plays Bass 24/7. But in the guild, every time he logs in, we see Mass, and then in quotations we see that he's playing on his alt Bass. Something like that. Something that really, again, allows us to easily know who is who in the guild, and to coordinate just all that information. But at the same time as well, I don't want to have to give permissions. Here's another thing. I don't want to have to give permissions on the ranking system. I don't want to have to give permissions to Bass and all these other different people. I want to be able to give Mass, we'll say we'll even step it up. Hey, I invited Mass. He's the only one in the guild, so I made him an officer. All right, so we got Mass and we got Bass. I got 3 people in the guild, and 2 of them are the same. I don't want to have to give the quote unquote Bass character permissions. I want Mass to be able to, since he's labeled Bass as an alt of Mass, I would like him to inherit as a parent every permission that Mass has. He should show as the same rank and same permissions as his main. So, if you have 14 different alts, and let's say that I'm on an alt and I'm Sacred, I'm on Sacred 2, or I'm on Sacred 10. Let's say I'm on my alt for Sacred 10. I'm playing, I'm having fun, and somebody gets on, they're like, oh, I need you to handle something. We have a situation in the guild. We need you to address this and to remove them. Well, I don't want to have to go through and set up permissions for all those different alts. Let's say I have a fetish for making new alts and leveling them from 1 to 10, just over and over and over again. Well, if something comes up, I don't want to have to log off and then log back on my main. I would just like to have the same permissions that my main has. I might have to initially, when inviting that character into the guild, I may have to initially go in there and select them as an alt, and then select them as the guild leader's alt, because I'm the only one that has permission to select that, and give that permission to somebody. But again, alt-itis. Yeah, I've had it for quite a while as well. But again, I don't want to have to log in and out because I'm not on my main character and my alts don't have the same permissions as my main. I would like to see those permissions, again, kind of inherited down from the parent. So just some ideas, just some thoughts, and so again, you're looking at that form, and when you go look at the character list, so you have the little box here. I have the guild roster, and I see Mass within quotations Mass. Well, if I click on Mass, it'll show on the right hand column just a little list of information. Mass's main is so Mass's main, his rank, what permission, I'm not even permissions, let's just say his rank. Permissions is for guild leader only, so that's the only thing I need to know about for me. But let's say I need to know his rank. If he has permissions, to know what the permissions are, then he can see those. I need to know what his alts are. I need to know any notes that we have on him, any additional information, and then again, just going down the list of anything else that I can think of. Maybe just simple information. His character level, race, class, things like that. Just simple information, but I don't know. I would like to see that ability to make a parent and then inherit the permissions down to alts, as you go forward. And then let's go to the next piece of that. Throw progeny in there, and I have a lot of different questions of how that would work. Because if Mass uses the progeny system, I'm hoping that I don't have to re-invite him to the guild and give him his permissions and everything back. I'm hoping that he continues to take that with him. Whole nother discussion for a whole nother day. But maybe that's another thing that you could show on that list of oh, hey, Mass, this is his, he's on his alternate, and his alternate's on his third progeny or something like that, So again, I don't know. We'll see how that all works out. But I would just like it to look kind of like that. Give us that box. Give us the player list. Give us a list of information. I click the edit button. I give a series of fields. And again, one of the big fields I have there is he a main? Is he a alt? And do I have a drop down to select what alt or an alt of who he is? So notes. The one thing I don't want is just a simple box. The one thing I do want is a little more detailed form structured. His third alt is the best ever, but will be killed off in a week. Very well. It could be. Um, all right. So colored name tags in guild chat. Colored name tags help separate guild leaders, officers, and members from chat. I like this. I like this. I saw a couple of people didn't really care for this as that much. I personally, I don't have no issue with this. I like this. In Discord, for example, we use Discord now to really communicate a lot. We separate the names by color. I don't know. It's just an easy way to quickly identify who's who. Um, I would even like to go so far as to maybe give people the ability to kind of change their names themselves, or colors of the names themselves. But if that's not the case, for some of the more loose guilds that it doesn't really matter about that. For that, if that's not the case, then like the guild leader has to set it, or like whoever the officer is has to set the colors. That's perfectly fine. I think that's actually a really neat idea. I have no problem with that whatsoever. And if it's done right, I think it's pretty simple, pretty easy, and it just kind of helps identify quickly who's who. Let's see here. Guild chat commands. Or no, wait. Yeah, guild chat channels for officer chat and member chat, etc. Absolutely. I think the game wouldn't be complete without something like this. It's been in every MMO since I can remember, having an officer only chat, something like that. I think that's kind of a given. You have to have something of that nature. You have to have the ability or a way for your officers to quickly communicate about maybe important bits of information, or coordinate efforts or something like that for a raid. You have to have a way for them to talk in a format, in a safe place, to where they can have some really blunt and open discussions about things without having the entire audience of the guild participating. So I was hoping color names could be used in EQ, for anonymous role playing, etc. I don't remember in EQ how that was used. So basically, if you were a role player, if you really enjoyed role playing in EQ, you change your name to a certain color, and that color identified or allowed people to see you running by and go, "Oh, I know that person." Now, here's my question on that, Mass. Are you talking colored names in chat? Or are you talking colored names over their head? In open chat. Okay. Well, what about this? What if you still had that? What if you still had that ability, but you also have an ability to change or edit the colors when they get into the guild chat? Oh, you should be able to join. Try clicking on the live stream. There we go.
Well, look at that.
I have a key system, quote unquote, for give people special permission to join this without being at a certain admin level. So
Nice. Thank you.
you're welcome. So explain that to me. So in open chat, you were saying they had their names colored so that it identified them as role players or anonymous or something else.
It wasn't an open chat, but it was the name of above the person when you're walking around. Like role players would have purple names, and anonymous would have green names. And it was just one of those things that so if you're a role player and you're walking around, you can be like, oh, hey, this other person's also a role player, so I can just break out in the role play with them.
I think that's perfectly fine. I think that sounds cool. So I think the difference between what I'm talking about and that is I'm talking more of a guild chat and like just an open, guild chat log there, or message. and within the actual guild chat, you would have different colors for different names based off of ranks. But as far as like open world goes, and players' names above their head, I really like that idea. I forgot about it, to be honest with you. I haven't played EQ in God knows how long, at any real degree. So I've completely forgotten about the fact that they had different colors above their heads. But yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, I don't see why that wouldn't be a possible thing. And I personally could see it to be a toggle option, if that makes sense.
Yep. Both roleplay and anonymous and original EQ were a toggle option. You turn them on or off.
Mhm.
Oh my God, anonymous hid your class and race and level, so that people couldn't just be like, "Oh, who's a 60 cleric? I can beg for a res right now."
Well, I'm actually talking color. I would like the color of players' names for me as a person to be something I can toggle. Meaning, if you want to go anonymous, that's great. But if I want to see your name in white, whether you're anonymous role playing or just a dream crusher like Kilson, and you have your own special color, I want to see your name in white.
I will be honest, I have some reservations about that, but very few.
Okay.
My main reservation is that if you do that, you have to restrict colors that are specifically put aside for roleplay, because if anyone can just set their name to anything, it's really hard to make a system of all people with purple names are role players.
Okay, so let me be clear. I would like it either to be where I can toggle on the colors or toggle off colors. Period.
Oh, okay, yeah. Got you.
So basically, I'm either going to see a color or I'm not, but you're still going to be able to select roleplay, you're still going to be able to select anonymous, but I may see a color above your name, or I may just see anonymous and no color.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because for me personally, I would much rather just see the white names, and whether you're anonymous or not, it doesn't matter to me. I'd much rather just see the white names, unless I'm feeling kind of fun one day and I want to do some role playing, and maybe I'll turn it on and then go run around and find people. But besides that, for me, I would like to see it kind of uniform across the board.
Okay, yeah, I have no problem with that whatsoever.
I think that actually goes a little bit towards the cosmetic versus adventure gear as well. Just some people preference, they want to turn off the cosmetic look and they want to just have adventure gear and be able to show that. And then some prefer to have that cosmetic feel and look. So, yeah, I think having toggle options like that would be perfectly fine. I think having colored names to identify kind of what your status is or role is or what you're interested in or something like that. I think that sounds cool. All right. So I'm gonna keep going down the list here. So again, colored name tags within guild chat. I see no problem with it. I think that's actually a pretty neat idea. It makes sense to me. I can understand it. And then you have guild chat channels officer. Okay, we talked about that. Again, I think that's standard. Should be standard at least. Let's see. Message of the day. Guild message of the day broadcast to members upon login.
I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was standard in WoW, I know, and I feel like it was in EQ as well.
It was in EQ. The message of the day just kind of popped up in the chat box when you logged in.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like in its own window or anything.
And now, see, and that's what I was just thinking. I think in every game I played, it was just a standard message in the message box, just which is fine. However, most days I logged into a major city, and my chat went about 1,000 miles an hour. So I never saw it. I was like, oh, there's a message of the day, and it, let me try to scroll up and catch it before it disappears. So Yeah, I like this option, but as you said, my first thought as well was that would really be neat if I had it to where it could just give me a little pop-up box. Hey, guild message of the day, and it gives you a little pop-up box, and you can just click an X and close it down when you're done reading it.
It is absolutely within the realm of possibilities. I used to host a Killing Floor server up until about a month ago, and pretty much any server you host can do it. There is no reason the same shouldn't be said about online games where you log in and it goes, okay, pull my guild message.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that should be too hard. I think that would be really neat in my mind.
I think the only thing I can worry about there, they might need to keep it relatively simple text, because depending on how many guilds you have, that could be resource significant.
True. You know, and in a worst case, if it's something that they really don't feel like it's worth putting resources to, you know, just make it to where it's very, very noticeable, or make it to where it's I guess it could say kind of really up front and center when you go to your guild tab or management, you know, tabs. So when you log on and say, "Oh, who's in the guild?" and I open up the list of guild members in my guild UI, my guild interface, whatever you want to call it, you know, make it really noticeable for us. I think that would help out as well. But you know, if they can't make a box, if they don't want to put resources to it, that's fine. I just want to make sure that it's noticeable, it's easily found. It's not something that just appears in chat and disappears in like 2 seconds because I'm in a city. So yeah, I think that could be done pretty easily, and it'd be neat.
I agree.
Let's see here. So I think the next two I can go for pretty quickly. Member information, as I said earlier, you know, I kind of gave a description of how I'd like to see member information beside their online status, and kind of how you would populate that information. I think that's a no-brainer in my mind. You have to have member information. And then member logon alert toggle. I like this myself, and I love the toggle piece of it. As a guild leader, I like the idea of seeing people as they come on. Especially some of my friends, you know, as they log on, I'd like to be able to hit them up as they log on and be like, "Hey, yo, we're in dungeon XYZ. We just lost somebody. Just saw you log on. You think you want to join us?" Or just the simple fact of, I have one of my friends saying, "Hey, I'm gonna be on in 20 minutes," and then as I'm sitting there waiting, you know, I don't want to have to watch I don't want to have to watch the chat to see if they say something. I don't want to have to watch the list of guild members online to see if they come online. I'd rather just be kind of doing my own thing, and then all of a sudden, hey, I see it scrolling by my chat. You know, Mash just logged on. Yeah, I like that in my mind. And if I feel like it's a little overwhelming, there's just too much information there, and it's kind of annoying that I see people logging in and out, 100 people logging in and out at a time, then, you know, I just toggle it off. I like the toggle it option there.
Yeah, just to be clear what we're talking about here, is it this, I feel like, should be an individual option. We're talking individual, not like the guild has to see everyone.
No. Individual.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely individual.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point to make, because yeah, if it was a guild option to toggle it or not, I would leave it off 100% of the time, because I wouldn't want to put that on other people. Because it just that's I mean, again, if you have a big guild, that can be very annoying.
100% agree.
So, let's see here. Guild description info, drop down selection of countries to display your guild's base country. Yeah, I guess. I don't know about the quotation there. The guild description absolutely agree with. I think that that's really cool to have kind of, if you had like in your guild menu or interface, if you kind of had like a homepage for your guild to show like guild description, message of the day, you know, just some general information about your guild, maybe the same information that's posted to the recruitment page, you know, maybe people can actually visit the homepage of your guild and see some of that information. If you had something like that, that'd be neat. Again, I'm just the drop down to select countries to display for your. I guess that's more of a looking for guild thing than anything in my mind. If I'm on a server and I'm talking to somebody and don't know that they're based out of Australia, then for me, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't really see a benefit in that. I guess it's not bad information to have, but you know, if my guild tells me if I work night shift, or if I'm sorry, if I work, yeah, if I'm a night person, if I just stay up all night long, that's my thing. I like to get on at 9 p.m. at night and stay up till 7 a.m. in the morning playing every day, and then you know, I have a weird work schedule, so it works out for me that way. And I just so happen that playing with people from, you know, Australia or somewhere else is better for me. Then I think that that would just really depend on the guild's play times. You know, when they determine that they're going to be most active, not really depending on the country they're in, but more just about the play schedule, the time slots they're going to be on and most active. I don't have a problem with it. Like I said, I don't know. That kind of struck me as odd. I don't really see a huge benefit in that myself, besides when I'm doing looking for guild, maybe.
Yeah, this is actually kind of a big thing in Secret World. It's not so much, you know, the exact country they're from, but people like to differentiate American guilds from UK guilds based on the, you know, to further clarify what time zone they're going to be playing in. Because, you know, as someone, I don't want to join a guild, find out it's UK, and I have to stay up till 4 in the morning to play with them.
Yeah.
If I want to play with them, not, you know, American guilds, you can end up playing with people till 4 in the morning too, but.
Well, absolutely, and I think that that's kind of the key for me. It's not so much what country they're based in, but it's more about the time frame in which they're going to play on a nightly basis, or majority of them are going to play. And so I think picking a country is not a bad thing, but honestly for me, I would love to be able to set core hours for the guild and show that more than anything. And if again, I don't know, let's say that you're Eastern Standard Time, let's say that I'm, you know, Pacific Standard Time, and there's a 3-hour difference between us. Well, let's say as a guild, we base everything off of Eastern Standard Time, you know, for your benefit or something. And you know, I don't know, because of that, we I don't know, I'm trying to think of that, because again, I think you would just have to go to based off of what Pantheon allows. So let's say that the server we're on shows, how would it do that? Does it change? I don't know if it changes or not in other games. Like, for example, if I'm in Eastern Standard Time and I say that I'm going to be on at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, does that translate over to somebody who's in, you know, Pacific Standard Time, or do they just see the Eastern Standard Time? Because in WoW, for example, they have servers that are dedicated by time zones. So for example, I was on an East Coast server in WoW. The time zone on that server was Eastern Standard Time. If I went to a West Coast server in WoW, based off of my memory, I believe, I might be wrong on that. It's been a while since I played.
I do like that idea a lot better than the picking the country you're from, the having, hey, here's our guild active hours. This is when you can expect to see people on. I feel like that's a lot better uh, a lot better way to present it. And then once you have that, you can set up the hours as a guild officer in your time zone, and then have the game be smart enough for people to select their time zones and translate the time.
I would hope so. Yeah, absolutely. But again, yeah, that's see for me the country's great. I think that's neat. It's additional information and it's not a bad thing to have. But yeah, I'm really in the boat of I need to know the active time frame in which the guild's going to be on versus the country they're going to be, they're quote unquote representing. So, yeah, no, I mean, but guild description information, period. That's good information to have. I really like that. Let's see here. So we have on that note, we'll move on to the next three. I can think we can move those all together, which is show guild member status, members offline, and member alts tab toggle. Okay, so let me go through these one at a time. Actually, I thought we could combine them, but okay. Show guild member status tab / toggle. I don't know if I understand that. Guild status. Because below that it says show guild members offline. So am I showing just online members? Is that quote unquote status? Or am I, well, maybe I can show offline, or maybe I can show online, maybe I can show AFK. I don't know.
I think what they're saying here is, when you pull up the guild list, show people who are online, show people who are offline, and if people are offline, show the last date they were online.
Well, but so there's 3 bullets on this. The first one says status. The second one says offline and date time of last login. I agree with the offline one. I completely understand and it makes sense to me. The status one though, I'm not sure, but I'm kind of thinking they mean rank. Guild status meaning rank in the guild, not online, for example.
It's kind of weird.
Because okay, and here's why I'm saying that. Because if I show guild members offline tab, like in a tab, or the ability to toggle that, I don't see any benefit in that. Like, I guess it's saying I can either show them, like, so for example, if I'm looking at Discord, on the right hand side of my Discord, I have a list of everybody that's offline. Perfect. But other people that come into my Discord don't see those offline members because they really don't need to. There's no point, I guess, in knowing who's the offline. So having the ability to hide the offline members or show them, yeah, I guess that's you can toggle that. No big deal. And maybe you're right. Maybe this is just really talking about the online status. So, but again, why would I want to toggle seeing people who are online? Because if I toggle showing people online and offline, I've just removed the entire list of people. Now I see no one. I don't know. That might be in ranks. That one's a little confusing to me. I'll skip it. I won't go too far into that one. Okay, so the guild status one, I think that might be ranks, and if that's saying toggle what ranks people are, I have no problem with that. I mean, it's personal preference. If people want to toggle, then they can toggle it. That's fine. If it's talking about online status, then I'm confused by why you would want to toggle and hide everyone who's online. But again, moving away from that one. So we have the show guild members offline, the date of last login type thing. I highly like this. Like I said, if you don't want to see who all is offline and when they were last online, you can toggle it off and just hide them. So once they go offline, they're just off your list. You don't have to worry about looking at them anymore. Or if you want to see a list of everybody who's offline and how long they've been offline, like 2 or 3 years down the road, you pull the guild list up and you see that you've got members who haven't logged on in 2 years. You might need to do some purging, clean the guild up a little bit. So that's not a bad thing for me at least. And then show guild members alts, tab toggle. Again, I think that piece I was talking about earlier, where you kind of have the parent, the main, and then you have the alts as kind of that child representative within the guild. I would like to see the child characters inherit the mains or the parent permissions. And I don't know how that would work. Show guild member alts. And the reason I'm saying I don't know how it would work, because I don't know how that in Kilson's mind you have that envisioned of what that list is going to look like. Does that mean, when I say show guild member alts, does that mean, let's say that I have a list and I have Sacred at the top of the list, and then like kind of like pushed over, tabbed over like a little bit, I have a list of like alt characters that Sacred can be. Am I hiding that? Or am I saying that if I log on to a separate character altogether, Sacred 2, that I'm going to hide that? I don't understand how that looks, or how that vision is for that.
Well, there are 3 ways to do it from a coding standpoint. The first is you make it just a crappy comma-separated list where it's all just squished together as one list in one column. The other is you can upgrade that to a multi-line entry for the column where, it'll expand out so the column or the row is a little wider, but it has them all lined up nicely to show the alts. The alternative is to not bother on the main guild list screen and just have, when you drill down to the other tab where it's the player specific, have it listed in there.
Yeah, and I mean, again, the tab / toggle, I guess that's what Kilson's saying here. You can either separate it and put them on a different screen altogether, or you can have the ability to show / hide them. So
I'm kind of confused what all the toggle ideas are.
yeah. As I'm going through it, I'm really trying to think very I'm trying to think clearly on it, but it's some of this is a little confusing to me as well. How about PvP? I wonder if there could be some features specific to guilds on PvP servers. Absolutely. I mean, that's a very, very valid point, actually. There are a lot of people who are very, very, very interested in PvP servers, and I am sure that there are some specific needs for PvP guilds on PvP servers that are not necessarily needed for PvE guilds on a PvE server. I would like to. What would be one? I mean, I'm just trying to think here. What would be one though?
I'm probably not the best ideas of it. I probably don't have the best ideas. I am not a PvPer myself.
So I guess if I'm thinking about it, maybe a. Wow, that's tough. The first thought that comes to my mind is absolutely, I can see that there's probably some maybe additional features that would help a PvP or a guild on a PvP server versus a guild on a PvE server. However, when I'm thinking about it more and more and more, I'm really struggling to think of a valid point to make a difference between the two guilds.
I mean, if they're doing kind of a battlefields type thing, you could let people enter what kind of battlefields they prefer. Maybe certain people like capture the flag, whereas others just want a more of a just flat out free for all, kill the enemy, elimination.
Well, but again, what I'm saying is, so like for example, if you're on a PvP server, I'm assuming that you're looking at doing open world PvP. And
Okay, yeah.
and and if I'm thinking of something like we'll say a battleground, for example, that's something that in my mind is probably going to be available on both PvE and PvP, like an arena type area where in the middle of a city you just have like a coliseum and you can walk into the coliseum, and not necessarily, I'm not talking like WoW arenas where you have like 3v3 or something like that. No, no, no. I'm talking like just like an open PvP area, like a little coliseum or arena within a city. I don't know. I feel like those might be a thing even in PvE servers. I think the difference between a PvP server and a PvE, in my mind, really just comes down to the open world PvP concept. Running around, ganking people as they're trying to level up, or having the ability to actually attack and damage other characters. For example, if on a PvE server, if I'm running through a zone and I see a bunch of lower level players that are uh, fighting a couple mobs, and um, I throw an AoE damage, spell over there to help them kill the mobs, well then I'm not going to hurt them. I have no fear of hurting them at all. But if I'm on a PvP server, potentially depending on where I'm located zone wise, and maybe they're flagged or maybe they're not. I'm not sure like how that's going to exactly work. Or maybe they're in oh, I don't know how that's going to work because there's not really going to be like factions or something. So I would assume you're looking at a flag system.
There could be factions. I mean, they did in EverQuest.
On EQ, it was difficult to sometimes differentiate enemies in large battles. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if a guild um menu or structure or something to that fact. I'm not sure if something guild oriented would really help as much with that though. I don't know if that makes sense. The only thing I can see, like, let's say, the only thing I can see is, let's say, as a guild member, you have a different color name than other people, like above your name, so it shows easier. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I would have to think about that more because I'm not really following on what you could do from a guild status perspective. That would be any different in PvP versus PvE. I'm not saying that you couldn't do something, but I'm struggling to find the real benefit there. Really, what's going to be that one thing that you do that's so different and makes everything so much better. So, um, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that one. That was gonna be stumped a little bit. Let's go be stumped. Okay. I'm gonna continue to kind of move on through this list. It's taking a lot longer than I thought it was gonna be, but it's really fun discussion. Um, all right. So tag someone as an officer slash recruiter. Toggle.
There it is again.
Management leader option.
Okay. I kind of get what they're going for.
Okay. How so?
I think what they're saying is they want to be able to, differentiate. Yes, you're in a leadership position, but you're here to you're a recruiter. You're someone people can ask for invite. You're not someone who's gonna, lay down the law, kick people from the guild, or stuff like that. And having something to differentiate the officers that are legit officers and the officers that are just there for recruiting.
Okay, let me see if I understand this. Because for me, this is why I'm saying this. For me, when I think of this, so I think of an officer as an officer. I think of a recruiter as a recruiter. I don't think of one of the same.
Right.
So
I think they absolutely should have separate roles.
yeah. So when I'm thinking of that, tag someone as an officer / recruiter. Toggle. I don't. I'm.
I mean, are they just talking about showing the rank?
Well, this is what I think that it's talking about. This is my mind that how I'm thinking of talking. How I'm thinking it's being talked about here. I'm thinking as a member of it, not as a leader or a officer or something like that, but I think as a member of the guild. If someone logs on their alt, and this is of course if you don't have like the parent hierarchy system set up for like alts and mains being connected at some point, I think if someone logs in on an alt, technically maybe that alt doesn't have same permissions or doesn't actually show as an officer or a recruiter or something like that. Maybe they're saying that, well, nope, scratch all that thought, because then I read the second part of that management leader option. So this is literally just for the leader or officer ranks to tag someone else as an officer recruiter, and that again you have the toggle ability, which I don't quite understand that. I guess maybe me and you go out one night and we build ourselves a raid group, and I say, you know what, you're not quite a permanent officer, but for tonight I'm gonna make you an officer, so I tag you as an officer. I literally don't know. Like, it makes no sense to me because I don't know.
I'm at a loss too.
Yeah, I'm confused on that one. So I'm gonna go ahead and skip that one because that one, the more I think about it, the more it doesn't make sense to me at all. I don't know why you would tag someone as an officer or recruiter. I don't see any benefit. Okay, so points DKP system tab. This can be just a blank box that is written for DKP or similar. That can be written in for DKP or similar. Okay, for me, I've been looking a lot into guilds lately. I've been really trying to figure out how I want to manage the guild, especially when it comes to loot, because we're going to be a raiding guild, but at the same time we're not going to be like a hardcore progression guild where we have like one dedicated core group and that's the only group that we're raiding with, and if you're going to miss, then we need to find a replacement for you, and that it's a big ordeal. No, it's a little more casual in that. Yeah, sure, we're going to have core members, but at the same time I'm going to want to be able to fluctuate people in and out, and maybe even create multiple groups, and I want them to be flexible. I want them to, oh, hey, we need to go to this place because so and so in the guild needs this for his epic quest. Let's see if we can help him out. Let's put a raid together and see what we can do. Who can show up? Who can be there? Type thing. Not so much we're doing this, and this because this is the biggest progression step we can do. More of a kind of let's see what the guild needs and go with it type flow. So with that in mind, I could potentially have a lot of players moving in and out of raids at any given time. I can have a lot of variation in each raid group. Unfortunately, that means I could be teaching a lot of people every single night how to do certain fights, which could be fun and kind of stressful or frustrating at times. But at the same time, I find it challenging, and I think that's kind of a piece of the enjoyment. But then again, it also means that you could have that core group of members that meets for certain raid progression, maybe once or twice a week, as they're able to, and really tries to push through that that higher end top tier content. And then all at the same time, as a guild leader, I have to look at this point system and see who all has what, how do we fairly distribute the loot, what do these values mean, who sets the values, basically me, but how am I going to actually do that and maintain that? Having something like a tab in the guild in the guild, what do you call it? Menu there, UI. Having something just as simple as a tab that shows the characters and gives me a spot to fill in the DKP is, I think that's sufficient. I think I could work with that.
I definitely say I would leave it as kind of an open box myself. Like they said, a text box that you can just, okay, boom. Their DKP is this number because I wrote that number in there.
Yeah, no, and again, I agree, because again, as a guild leader, I may decide that I'm putting point values on each one of the items that drops, and I'm going to, once that person, oh man, I think that the open box is the best way to do it. I personally, for me, I'd love to see it to where I could filter that view a little bit though. And here's what I'm saying. If I'm in a raid that night, I don't want to go to a separate tab, and that tab just have a giant list of 1,000 guild member names with boxes. I would like some way, somehow, to be able to go to that list and see just the people in my group. And I know it gets a little more in depth here, but I'd like to be able to select, let's say that we go, and at the start of the raid, let's say I give everybody in my group 5 points for being on time and showing up. I know the numbers might be way off from what realistically we're talking, but let's just say 5 points. So I give everybody 5 points for showing up, and just for being on time as a thank you. Hey guys, here's 5 points. Let's go ahead and start. I'll give you a certain amount of points for every boss we down, and for the time we spent here, after we're done, I'll reward everybody, based off of how long we spent here tonight. Okay, so that's great. So I want to give 24 people 5 points of DKP, or 5 points of 5 guild. We'll say 5 guild currency, because that's pretty much what it is.
Right.
I don't want to have to go find all 24 people and individually type in 5 or add 5. I would love to have a system to where I could just go through and quickly somehow select all 24 of them and maybe type in 5, add, and it go boop and add it all. 5 to every one of them.
I think that's definitely doable. Now, I do have other thoughts on this that kind of go off of that, but
okay.
I do like I think if you're going to add the system, you should add proper tools to use it well. It also depends if they're going to make the whatever variable holds that a string, or if it's going to be, so you can enter things in terms instead of, maybe someone wants to do, instead of having a DKP list, they want to fill in that slot with first, second, and third placements for your role in the guild. And they want to basically go, okay, well, if a cleric item drops, this cleric has first, this cleric has second, and this cleric has third.
Yeah.
I think it should be flexible. And then another thing from a concept actually we were talking about with Overwatch versus League of Legends, which I know they're not MMOs, but
yeah.
They were talking about adding in a team builder for Overwatch, because one of the chief complaints about Overwatch is you get people who absolutely refuse to comp up, for lack of a better word, that refuse to take the time to build a working, viable team. And a team builder would therefore let you join a mode that enforces that by assembling a team that will work together into a certain composition. The debate there is, at the point where you make it a part of the system, you therefore declare that is the right way to play the game. And is it similar when you add a DKP system into the guild mechanics? Are you then saying that, okay, well, it's in the system, this is how you should be doing things? You're kind of setting it up as the meta, so to say.
Yeah, definitely. I see what you're saying there. So yeah, let's think about that, because what you're saying is you don't want to force people into doing it this way. If they have a different way they want to do it, perfectly fine. I get it. I guess where I'm coming from is a little bit on the there's 110 different ways to do it, honestly. Every single guild could have a different way of doing this system. I think for me, the thing that I'm looking at is potentially most of these systems are going to need a way to do some sort of mass edit. I don't mind as a guild leader. I really don't. I don't mind as a guild leader having to go through and individually edit each one of these entries, because that's kind of the role that I'm taking on, or maybe I have somebody dedicated to that, and I'm saying you're responsible for ensuring that everybody gets their 5 points for showing up on time. Maybe that's somebody's role, but here's my thing too. And, you know, as a guild, I feel like, again, I started the conversation out, and you weren't here for this, but I started the conversations out today with this basically note of, as a guild in Pantheon, I want to be able to maintain and control and do everything for my guild and with my guild within the game. I want to have a website or something to manage my guild. I want, if I have a website, it to be a supplement to what I have in game, not a necessity, because I don't have those features in the game. So right. Finding a way to kind of help both parties there, again, giving me some way to, and even if it's like putting a checkbox beside their names, like, if I'm just thinking about it out loud, even if it's something as simple as putting a checkbox beside their name and me saying, these are the people I'm checking off, here's the number that I'm giving them, add 5 to all their scores. Or if I say, you know, something like, okay, yeah, maybe you have where you have the top 3 clerics, well then just allow me to filter to the clerics, and allow me to filter in order based off of value I have there. And that's another thing too, filtering. You know, if you depending on what type of box you have there, what type of value you're allowing to be put there, you may or may not be able to filter off of it. And to me, that would kind of be a necessity. In my mind, I would almost want to be able to show who has the most points to who has the least. For 2 reasons. One, like you said, if you have it to where you have a list of, this cleric has the first loot, this cleric has second loot, all the way down to this cleric has 20th loot, and yada yada yada. If I need to edit those numbers, well, there's no way that I can think of that's going to be easy unless you actually just built the system for it to manage it that way and quickly edit it. But if you had it to where I could go through and say, add 1 to all parties, and then I go to the last person on the list and change their number to a 1, I'm done. Are you talking guild UI mechanics, things that they already give us in the game? Yeah, I'm talking about just so again, looking at the post and the general discussion, general guild discussion that Kilson posted, just kind of some things that seen as must-haves, and you know, my guild's gonna be ran 100% different from like every other guild in the world, because every guild's ran differently, and you know, so it's just a matter of opinion. Every guild's going to have different needs. Just kind of looking at it in a general term, though, you know, how do we make sure that Pantheon has all of the different pieces in place for a guild to be successful when the guild, or if the guild chooses to only utilize in-game features to manage their guild and maintain it. Like, I want to make sure that Pantheon has as much as possible, if not everything, to manage a guild successfully at whatever level they decide to be at: top tier, bottom tier, middle tier, casual, hardcore, wherever they decide to be in the world of Pantheon. I would like to be able to manage and organize and coordinate efforts within that guild, keep communications up, grow the guild, and continue to, again, work within Pantheon to get everything I need for the guild, versus having to go outside of Pantheon to an external website or something like that, and do it there.
I think what you said before is a very important thing to think about, where you were saying, if we're going to have a website, that should be supplemental to what's in the game. And however, they should also have all the necessities covered in game, all the things people need to manage a guild. Now, I think something to keep in mind that is very important is that you have to understand and kind of debate a little bit of what's a necessity and what isn't. Because actually DKP, like we were just talking about, by putting that on there, you leave it as, oh, well, if it's on there, that must be the system to use. That's how it's there. You do want to keep an eye on, is that something that's managed by each guild individually, and there should be openness for the system to be flexible for whatever system a guild makes? Or is it something that this is ingrained enough in how a guild needs to run that it needs to be on there?
Okay. I mean, I agree with that. Absolutely. I guess for me, maybe this isn't needed for every guild. Maybe that piece isn't needed for every guild. But for me, I think that it's viable for enough guilds, especially when it comes down to your larger, more organized, focused guilds. Progression guilds, even maybe PvP guilds. We're talking about that a minute ago. Even maybe PvP guilds want to use this for kind of a tracker. Hey, it's not really used for loot. We don't use it for loot. We use it for tracking how many kills we have. Maybe that's what they do.
Right. And at which point you'd want to make sure it's open enough. It's not just clarified as DKP, but maybe a points, just call it points, or something where it's open for interpretation for each different guild to run as they see it should be.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I love the terminology guild currency, but even that doesn't work for the PvP thing that I just had.
Ooh, I like that term too.
So,
Gave me goosebumps.
So, I mean, and again, I would love to see. I've got some ideas around guild quote unquote currency that I think are really neat. You know what? Let me just throw one out here. So, because I thought about this the other day, and I thought this was a really neat idea, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's just too much. Here's the idea. I thought about it this way. We talk about housing, and this is deep thought. This is where my mind takes me at work, and this is why I do nothing productive at work anymore. Because of Pantheon. Thank you.
Oh no.
So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, let's think about if I'm a guild leader, I get housing later down the road. I want to create a guild house, and I do. Sweet. Let's say that I have the ability within my guild house to hire a vendor, and that vendor can do two things for me. They can buy and they can sell. Let's say that vendor has the ability to buy things from guild members and other people walking by. For example, I need a stack of rat hides because I don't know. I'm working with rat leather for that week. Who knows? But I need stacks of rat hides, and let's say that for me and my vendor and my guild, I say my guild really needs these rat hides. So guess what, guys? We're offering 15 gold a stack. My vendor will buy up to 20 stacks. That's as much as we need. The money's there. You can either go sell it for 15 gold, or if you're a guild member, you can sell it for 5 guild currency. Now, I'm not saying it's a great idea. I'm just saying having the opportunity to do something like that is neat to me. Because I may have guild members that never want to raid, never want a dungeon, but at the same time, they are expert crafters. They love crafting. They've been crafting for the guild, doing all kinds of really, really neat and awesome stuff. And if they ever did want to show up at a raid, I'd love to be able to give them a way to, I don't know, have some sort of ability to earn loot or to gain loot while there. They may have been crafting for the guild and building potions for the guild so that the guild could progress through raids for years, but just never had the opportunity to actually raid with us due to timing or whatever it is. I'd love for them to finally get a chance to come raid with us one night because they got a day off work for the first time in 4 years, and they've got currency to spend as a guild member that's been participating and actively helping the guild out just on the sidelines for years. That, to me, is a really neat idea because it means that, one, I can potentially set up my little guild vendor to interact with people for actual, game currency. Or two, I can almost have kind of like a little internal market within my guild that really doesn't cost me anything or the guild anything gold wise or game currency wise, but that internal economy that we have within the guild is allowed to, kind of be a back and forth. Maybe it becomes something where people are rewarding people for helping them on quest chains or in leveling or doing whatever it is. People in the guild are rewarding other guild members by this guild currency, so to speak. If I'm a top end raider, I'm a core raider. I've been raiding for 6 years, and I really just kind of got too much. I don't really know what to do with it, and there's no point in keeping it. I want to find a way to spend it. Well, maybe I can offer some of those new members ways to earn a little bit more by helping me out. Maybe I want some stuff for crafting. Maybe I want somebody to go fishing with me and just hang out with me and drink some dwarven ale by the pond with the little dragon statue for the next 5 hours. And this guy sits with me and we talk in Discord and he's funny and made me laugh, and I'm just like, dude, you know what? I appreciate it. Here's 10 DKP because I really like having fun, talking to you. I appreciate it. And again, it becomes kind of like a little internal economy. Go ahead.
I really like that. I think it should be one of those, requested items only mechanics if you're going to have a vendor there. Like, say, okay, we need high quality cat pelts. We need low quality wolf skins. We need high quality bear skins. This person's looking for this item for the quest to get faction in this zone. So you can sell these for something and kind of let people, put the limits on it so people aren't just selling tons of stuff to the vendor to get tons of junk to the vendor to get these guild credits so they can buy all the crafting supplies off the guild vendor and then sell them. But I do think that the other important thing is I think guild managers should have the option to go, oh, let me see what's in our vendor. All right, I'm pulling out all these high quality cat pelts and giving it to our tailor for free because, he's always here tailoring for us. He's always here making stuff for us while people are still getting these options. It's a really good way to, think about it.
And
go about it.
And there's a point that you made there, and that is exactly where I was going to go. So I was going to go two places here with that. One, where Yarn just went, and then two, where you went. But I'll start with you. So, Mass, you mentioned you have to find a way to make it meaningful and limit. You don't. Here's the idea. I don't want somebody who can play for 12 hours a day and collect 20,000 more rat pelts than anybody else to be able to run the numbers up and just have an unlimited amount of guild currency. Gotta be a way to maintain that. That's on the leader. That's on the person that's setting that structure up for the guild and ensuring that there is a way to control that market. Because if you let it get out of hand, if you provide too many inputs for it, too many exchange factors, then it becomes where there's just so much of it that it's just you can't handle it anymore. So it may be that for people collecting materials, which is just really a grind, you only offer 1 point. But it may be something that like that 1 point, it may be, let's say that you offer 1 point for somebody that puts in 1 stack of items. But you offer, and I know this is a big number, but you offer 50 points for downing a raid boss. So that raid may be it may only take you an hour to get in there and do that raid, but it may take you 50 hours to collect that many stacks of whatever it is. Again, you're finding a way to really kind of bring in through maybe certain aspects, bring in to where that's where the currency is really coming from, and then those individuals are kind of just distributing that among others in the guild to bring that activity up. But you want to limit a lot of where those inputs are, or how people can gain it, the number of stacks they can turn in potentially, the number of guild points they can earn a day through the vendor, the number, all that. Again, it really, you have to look at what the capability of all that is, and then you have to be able to manage that from a leadership perspective. And again, that really depends on what the capabilities are in the game. Hold on 1 second. I would really like to expand on guild currency. Also, the balance of for taxing the guild. You take actual coin to pay upkeep and provide the guild with goods, etc. Let's say 1 point gives you 1 guild, or gives you one platinum, maybe.
Platinum.
Okay, 1 platinum gives you 100 guild currency as a reward. You not. Okay, I got you.
I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry, after you.
Okay, well, I'll say this. So, yeah. Again, I think there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of ways you can go with that if you use a quote unquote guild currency system, or allow that within the game. I think that it opens up a ton of doors, and it really puts an emphasis on the guild leadership being fair with it and setting up a structure that works, because it means that some guilds could really abuse it and there could be a lot of issues with it. However, there could be a lot of issues with anything in any guild. But I think if it's set up right, it can be really neat and useful tool, and a way to kind of, again, bring those members who may not get to go to a raid into the guild and make them feel a part of it. Like, if they're able to earn guild currency from raiders by providing benefits, potions, brewing some ale to take to the raid for buffs, or being a chef, master chef, and cooking up some really cool stuff, or whatever it is, if they're able to really go do some of that and then help the guild progress, I think there's a lot of ways you can benefit the guild in bringing currency in there. One of the other things that you brought in there, and I want to bring this point real quick, Mass, because I'm going to forget it if I don't. Where was that? Oh, yeah. So, again, I just want to elaborate on that. The whole purpose of quote-unquote guild currency, in my mind, is to bring the entire guild together and allow them to feel like they're contributing, and I can't say that word to save my life right now. I'm not going to try to repeat it.
Contribulating.
Yeah, there we go. But again, that you want everybody to feel like they're going they're able to contribute to moving the guild forward, no matter what playstyle they have. And there's a lot of options and opportunity within something like a guild currency system. And if it's set up and we're allowed as a guild to really make it our own, I think it would be really neat, because each guild would probably use it a little bit differently. Maybe not fully, because there's probably limitations on it, especially if you bring vendors in and things like that. So there's going to be limitations on it, but just allowing the guild to really kind of control where those points come in, what the value of them is, or what they mean to the guild. I think that's a really neat idea in my mind. Go ahead, Mass.
So I think, to boil down the idea of DKP and guild currency and all these other systems, the idea is simply that commitment to the guild should directly lead to personal advancement. Not in a guild sense, but in a character sense. You should gain benefit from and help progress your character from helping your guild. They should go hand in hand. On top of that, I think we've talked about people who pitch in with trade skills, being able to buy up, trade. I think honestly the vendor is mainly there for trade supplies, but I'm sure there's other stuff too. And then being able to take that and roll it over, look, I'm always there. I'm making stuff for everyone who comes in. Now I'm on a raid for the first time in ever. And, oh, hey, there's a hammer I could really use, guys. But I've never been on a raid. I should still have DKP because of, because of my contributions to the guild. Additionally, I think another big thing that, having been in tons of guild, should be taken into account is time spent on other guild members. You absolutely have people who log on and they are tunnel vision from the moment they log into, unless you guys are putting together a group, I'm not talking to you. I am going and doing my thing. I am going to be progressing my trade skill. I'm going to be progressing my, I'm going to be working on leveling up, doing quests for myself, and that's it. That's the length I want to be a part of this guild. I want you guys as a group that I can trust and rely on. But then you have that person who, from the moment they log on, they are looking to give their time to every single member on the guild. They are willing to jump into a newbie zone, give them buffs, run miles out of their way to do so. They are willing to run around and port everyone to wherever they need to go. They are, willing to spend 3 hours helping someone camp a spawn for a quest they want to do. I think it's important that we know that we take that into account. And this isn't really a mechanic thing as much as it is a guild management thing.
Absolutely.
But a lot of guilds miss that because all they want to talk about is, who was at the raid on time, who participated, and what bosses did we kill? And there's a lot more to being a valuable member of a guild than that.
Absolutely correct. 100%. I mean, you hit it right on the head there. And when I'm thinking about this guild currency, that was realistically one of the biggest perks to this is, Sacred, because he loves to die in the most weird and awkward places, dies, and oh great, he's the guild leader, so he can kind of, I don't know, quote unquote, force people into helping him out. No, I don't want that ever to be a thing.
We have a term for that. That's called being voluntold.
Yeah, exactly. So no, but I never want that to be a thing. Instead, I would be like, hey, can someone help me? And someone's like, yeah, sure, I can help you. And then, 3 hours later, after they finally dig my corpse out of some obscure part of the world, I'm like, guys, I can't thank you enough. In fact, here's some of my personal currency to, show my gratitude. And again, it doesn't have to be real in-game currency, things that I could spend on other stuff outside the guild. It's guild currency, which, and this is one of the things I wanted to point out because Yarn pointed it out, and I almost forgot about it. Which, if I'm doing, the inside trader, yeah, but if I'm doing top tier rating with my guild all the time, we're gonna get to a point where we get items that I necessarily we as a guild don't need in that core rating group. Well, I want to be able to give those people outside the group, say those crafters that are not there. Well, if I could sell those to my vendor for guild currency, that's perfect, because maybe I don't want that item to necessarily get outside of the guild at first. I want to give the guild the ability to purchase that with guild currency. If I could use the vendor to then post some of those items or some of those things that I get when I'm in the raid that maybe the raid group doesn't necessarily need, or at least no one in the raid group at that time needed. If I'm able to get that into a guild vendor's hands, and my guild's able to use currency that they earn from crafting and helping the raid progress, from helping others in the guild, whether it be through a quest, whether it be through just kindness, just pure kindness of going out of their way to do something nice, and like I said, trying to go through and maybe they do the mentoring system, and they are I think we talked about it a little bit, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds on that, because I know there's a lot of things that are changing and could change with systems like that, so I'm trying to get too far into it, but being able to kind of go down and help some of those lower level players out, or show them some strategies on how to do a dungeon, or maybe even running some of our new level 50s through a dungeon for the first time. And as a top tier raider, you have some better gear experience in that dungeon. You're able to show them what they need, what they don't, or helping them get some gear or items for acclimatization, so that they can get into the dungeon for the first time. All this stuff, they could be, again, earning some of this guild currency, so that eventually when that time comes and some item is posted on that guild vendor, they go, I wasn't able to be a part of the raid, but because I contributed to the guild so much over the last few months, I have enough currency to buy that. They buy it, and now, without even being a part of that raid group, because they're a part of the guild and contributing to the guild and being active within the guild and really creating that community we want, they're able to earn a reward for that. That's kind of where it all rolls up into. It's, again, you talking about being active, being a part of the guild, being an actual member of the little internal guild community that you have there. It's such a vital piece of what this game is going to be to me, is to have that. So again, I'm right there with you. I think that the guild management, if you had something like guild currency, guild management has to be on top of it. They have to do it right. They have to allow players to reward other players for kindness, for time, for effort, just because they feeling good that day. I would love to be running around and just, have 20 guild coin on me, and just be like, hey man, thanks for joining the guild. I just wanted to say I really appreciated some of the kind words that you said when to others when you were joining the guild, and we got a lot of recruitment off of that, and a lot of really good people joined the guild because of the things that you said. Hey man, here you go. Or I just run by somebody and say, hey, welcome to the guild, here's 20 guild coin, and I just throw it out of my personal currency and throw it over to them and say, hey, enjoy, and run off. Things like that, those make people's day. I mean, that's the type of stuff that people remember. People, go on to. I remember getting buffs as a, I think it was Shield of Thorns, if I'm not mistaken, was the actual name of it. But I remember getting a Druid buff, as a brand new character, and I literally hit something, it hit me back, and then it died because the thorns were so strong, and I was just like, this is awesome, And but it made my day. It made my absolute day, because I literally was just like, I can go kill anything now, and I felt like a god, and even though I'm like level 2, it didn't matter. It was just, again, those little things that happen in creating those moments, and allowing us as players, and as allowing us as a guild to have the ability to create those moments ourselves. I think this system, or a system like this, would give us some additional options, additional opportunities to have something like that happen. So I don't know, man. I know I wasn't even trying to get off on that. But I've been thinking about what I like to call guild currency a lot lately, and I really like the idea of it. I've been trying to come up with a kind of proposal for it, and I've been looking on the forums, and I may have missed it, but I've been looking on the forums for something like that because I'm sure somebody else has had this idea already, and I'd just like to kind of add on to it or elaborate on it, but I haven't found it yet. So I'll throw it out there to the team and see what they say. But at the same time, it's one of those things where, for me, I think of so many benefits that can happen, and I know people are going to think of the negative effects potentially, that can occur from it. There's always going to be quote unquote negative effects for everything. No matter how big the positive is, there's always going to be something negative that you can find from it. But at the same time, I look at it as if it's done right and if it's done with the right attitude, about it, I think it could be a really, really neat, fun way to help engage every member, every play style of the guild, and really kind of bring you all together, kind of and it gives you that common language amongst each other. Another guild, 6,000 guild currency for another guild may be nothing, but for our guild, maybe because we value our currency, so we hold it kind of tightly, we don't give it out as much. Maybe 6,000 to us means you're a god and you can basically get anything you want. So it kind of creates your own little world and bubble, and other guilds may not understand what the value of that money is to you or to the guild, but you do. And so it kind of gives you something to kind of I guess you could say have in common, additional from being a part of the guild.
I think speaking of all this stuff, speaking of all these things like providing a trade skill ready for use by anyone in your guild, providing being the person that's constantly around helping others during your day, and that's what you do. I think we could system that up. We could definitely get a system in where maybe someone could be like, okay, let me go to the guild list, find the person, and add comment for officers and say, hey, I was on today. This person was great. He came down from across the world to help me kill skeletons and finish this quest. And it's just a fantastic contributor to the guild. And then in turn, that can then allow the guild managers to read this as if it were mail and go, oh, okay, well, look, this guy's doing great stuff. Give him, let's close this and forward it to him and give him 20 gold or guild currency. Sorry. But
no, you're good. You're good. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that could make for a really good system to work into guilds. I mean, there's plenty of stuff. I'm sure, even if you're not just talking about guild currency, there's tons of stuff that I'm sure people could want to leave notes for the officers about other players, even when it's not that positive.
Absolutely. And so we'll shift a little bit off of back off of guild currency, even though I think I could talk about it for hours, because like I said, I've been lost in this thought of it for a long time, and thinking of all the different possibilities and pros and cons and things like that, and I've really gotten excited about it over the last couple weeks, and I've been holding off on saying anything because I wasn't sure how to bring that to light, but I think this was a really good transition, a really good opportunity for it. So appreciate y'all being here and being a part of that. But you could also set up a payment system, reward system, in the forefront. Absolutely. Still Friday. Yeah, I agree, Mass. And that's kind of where I'm going with this. I want to finish up this list here, because I think I can talk about guild currency forever. But Mass, I appreciate you staying. If you've got to take off, man, as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through these last tabs here because I want to highlight a few of these and then wrap it up. So we have DKP. So we've beat the guild currency or the guild point system or DKP system or whatever you want to call it. We beat it up pretty hard, and I love the conversation around it. And then we have the level, class, location, crafting, diplomacy, harvesting descriptions and levels, tab or toggle option. Yeah, absolutely. I think that goes into the info for members. I think this is something that is really nice to have. And we have, let's see here, going to the next bullet, the ability to edit or reorder ranks, names of guild, and names for guild leaders, officer. The ability to edit and reorder ranks and names. Okay, so yeah, so the ability to freely edit the ranking structure and change the names. I was talking about this actually earlier when I started this a few hours ago about the ranking structure. I want to be able to name the the guild officer, the guild leader, the recruiter, the guild member. I want to be able to name these differently because I want to make them a little more fun and not as quote unquote intimidating. I don't want to necessarily call myself the guild leader, for example. I'd much rather find a name that's more seems more fluid with the guild myself. Something that stands out to let people know, but at the same time something that's a little more involved in my mind. And then we have so let's continue. So again, we reorder ranks, change the names of the different ranks, and so on and so forth. And then we have the guild calendar. So I've already talked about the guild calendar a little bit. I know that I've seen a bunch of comments in this particular form, this particular set of posts about the guild calendar. There was a lot of hit and miss about it. I'm not really sure what the deal is, honestly. I think the guild calendar, if done correctly, is a phenomenal piece to add in the game. It's a must-have in my book, and like I said, I think if it's done right, it's a beautiful thing to have. So the guild calendar, of course, it has to be done right. It has to be easily viewable, it has to be eligible so that everybody can has to be legible so that everybody can quickly read it and find what they're looking for. And hopefully Pantheon's able to do that. So guild calendar, my opinion, is a must-have. And then we have the last three here. So let's quickly go through these and kind of wrap it up. Pre-launch guild setup. Allowing for an easy transition into game on same server. Yeah, it's a must-have and easy to do. I agree, Yarn. It's a must-have for the guild calendar. Pre-launch guild setup, allowing for an easy transition into the guild or into the game and on the same server. I'm assuming that they're talking about testing in this primarily, more so than anything else. I'm assuming that we're talking the guild is going to potentially I don't know how that would work, honestly. Now, if you had it to where I don't know how that would work. It's almost like you're saying you log in and then maybe you have a section in the login where you can say, "Hey, I'm a part of this guild," and you go find the guild and then you enter, the guild that way, or you find the guild and maybe the guild has a password or something on it. I don't know. Maybe the guild is registered prior, and when you log in for the first time, then you have a list of the guild. Yeah, but I mean, I'm thinking of it like, for example, in my mind, this goes two ways. One, for testing efforts, like for beta, testing going to release. Let's say you have a guild in beta, in alpha, in pre-alpha, you have a guild the whole way through. You're continuing to test together, and then you want to go into release. Well, you don't want to necessarily be all spread apart and have a big confusion, especially if you're maintaining the guild within Pantheon, and you don't have a big variety of outside resources to use to coordinate those efforts. You want to be able to, for people to quickly enter the guild, quote unquote, when they're entering the game. So in my mind, I think of it like they have a login screen. They log in, and it says, at the top, basically pick a server, or if you have a guild at the very top right hand corner, it says, type in your guild information here, or type in what guild you'd like to join, and then you select maybe a guild up there, or type in a guild and it finds it for you. I see this, but I'm a little confused on this part because, for example, let's say that Sacred here, I go to the list and I say, oh, I know VOT. I've seen their channel. All right, I want to be a part of VOT, and then it sends me to the server that you've designated as the VOT's server that the guild's going to be on, and I create a character. It logs me in, and all of a sudden I'm magically a part of VOT now. And maybe there's an application system that you have for your guild in place, and now all of a sudden I've skipped that application system altogether. So again, I think there has to be some sort of way to verify that they are supposed to be part of the guild, or maybe when they log in for the first time, the guild leader is given it's sent a message and it says, oh, hey, so and so has signed up to be a part of your guild. Do you accept? And if they hit yes, then boom, they're in the guild. If they hit no, then they can create their character on that server and they'll still have them, but they're not a part of that guild as of that point. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of variations in that, because that could mean even other guilds from other games coming over. If you have a guild that's playing EQ right now, and they say, hey, we want to bring our guild from EQ over into Pantheon, and basically we offer them the ability for the guild leader to go in, create the guild, and then everybody that comes in, they just have to know their guild name. They go and put their guild name into the game, and then all of a sudden it's right there. Boom, boom, boom. I think they could work. I just think it depends on how they set it up, but I think they could work. That could be really neat. So I like that idea. I think that's it's a neat idea, and I think if they do it right, that it'll be really cool. Then we have the player guild stats page. Okay, so similar to Vanguard players. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play a Vanguard. I missed out. Similar to the Vanguard player page, but without the disco photo. What? Player guild stats page. Okay. Or any other issue. I guess Vanguard had some issues with it. So as long as they don't have a disco photo or any other issues that caused it to be taken down, this was valuable to guilds, allowing check players' alt stats. I'm not sure what that means. I'd have to look that up. I'm not sure if the player guild stats page is talking about just something the guild can see internally, or if it's talking about something that everyone can see internally, externally, something like that. I'm not sure where they're going with that. I'm also not sure if they mean that it's if it's going to be like on a website or something, or if it's going to be just internal to the game. I don't know. I'm maybe a little confused on what that is. To me, it just seems like a stat page of everything that's happening in the guild. Number of members, number of encounters they've faced, number of times they've died, bosses. I don't know, stats like that when I think of it. I don't know, but I don't mind the idea. Actually, I really like it. I think having stats is always fun. Yeah, the original was a website. Yeah, and I mean, I think that if you have a website, that makes, to me, a website makes more sense when it comes to stats like this. Because, if I'm thinking about it, when I want to go look at guild stats and things, I would personally rather do it on a website. I would like to do it probably outside the game when I'm not able to play, and I'd probably just be scrolling through stuff about the guild, looking at stats, looking at items, looking at who did what when they did it, maybe going over to a different guild and saying, oh, what is VOT over here doing? Oh man, they're killing it. Look at this. Look at their stats. It's just a fun way. It's again, you have those really hardcore progression guilds, and I'm sure they're going to be really paying attention to each other's stats. So having it on an external website where they can, kind of quickly find all the guilds. I think that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, internally seeing where the members are stat wise and where their gear is and everything like that. I think that's cool. I think there's no problem with that. And like Kilton said here, as long as they don't have the disco photo, then they should be good. So, all right. So down to the last bullet. Guild history. Tab mouse over name, show a list of dates, guild names joined and left. Absolutely. I don't think there's anything to discuss about this. For me though, I will say this. As far as guild history goes, I would probably like to see, and this is me, I would like to see two forms of guild history. One, I want to see here's the generic information about the guild. As seen here, list of dates, guild names joined, left, perfect. And then I would like to see an admin history list. For example, I would like to, as a guild leader, be able to see when my officers are making notes on different people. I would like to see when guild currency is being exchanged between members. I would like to see, when we have a flag or something placed on a character because they have an offense or something like that. I would like to see when the message of the day changes. I would like to see when a rank or someone's been, promoted. If it wasn't me, if it was an officer, I would like to see these things. I would like to see complaints filed against members. Maybe there's a way that I can have in the guild management section, I can have a way for members to post things to the officers. Basically, kind of send them a message, a private message through that, and that message show up in that history or something. I don't know, but I would like to be able to see a history of everything that's going on in the guild. All those different exchange points and different things that are happening, all the things that really don't need to be broadcast. But for me as a leader, as officers of the guild, I want them to be able to see that information to really help maintain and control and monitor how the guild is doing and progressing, and how they're coming together. What I would hate to see is that we don't have something like that, and my guild officers are adding notes to people in the guild saying, this guy needs to, be talked to because he has a respect issue and he is giving the guild a bad name. This guy was caught training in a certain zone for the last 7 hours, and I didn't feel like booting him, or I didn't have the ability to boot him as a member of the guild, but I want to make sure that the officers and others know about this, so I'm putting it as a note, so that you can see this, or I don't know. I want some way to be able to see that flow of information at a glance versus having to go through and dig through notes, dig through different tabs and stuff like that. Just give me a list. That way every day when I log in, I can quickly pull the list up and just kind of go from the top to the bottom of where I will left off the last day to really catch up and know exactly where everybody stands and what all's happened while I've been gone. So, yeah, I would like two histories, actually. An admin and a general guild history list. And then I think that wraps it up. It's been an adventure, to say the least, talking about guilds. But I think that wraps it up for tonight. And let me double check. So what do we got here? We're only almost 3 hours in of talking Pantheon, and we've finally gotten through most of our ideas for the guild. I think that's pretty good. Hopefully we continue to have more. Guys, I I will have a different discussion on a different day just to talk about guild currency and the ideas that I have on that. And I hope to see others continue to talk about it as well. I really like the idea, and I hope the terminology catches on, because I want to again find ways to bring the community together, and I don't want to limit the possibilities within Pantheon. Instead, I want to expand them. I want to give the community a little more of the control back in the game that we had back when, you know, the old school MMOs were here and we were all playing them, and the developers kind of gave us this open world and just were like, hey, do what you can with it, you know, show me what you can do with it, well, teach me what's possible. I would like Pantheon to give us a little bit of that back, and I think guild currency is a way to do that, and is somewhat guided direction. You know, they give you the guardrails, they put the guardrails up, and then they let the guild really determine how they're going to use that. And again, it really seems like a really neat idea in my mind. So I'm hoping that more people talk about it. We see some really educated discussions around it to see what the possibilities are. Maybe we can give VR and the developers some ideas that maybe they didn't have before, and you know, maybe, who knows, we might see some of that come later down the road in Pantheon that that really takes the game to the next level. I would love to see it myself, but we'll continue to talk about it. And if it becomes a thing, it becomes a thing. If not, then and maybe I had one good idea for 1 minute, and I'm happy with that. Again, guys, I appreciate everybody stopping by, hanging out. As always, I am done for the night. I am going to get off here, get some sleep, and be on tomorrow night. I'm not sure if we're going to do a Pantheon discussion or not, but I will say this one will be posted on YouTube here shortly, and it'll be available for everybody. So if you want to go back and review it, or go back and listen to parts that you may have missed or may not have, please do so. Let me know if you have anything you want to talk about directly. Again, this is open to anyone. So we had Mass in here tonight talking to me, but I do not limit who can come in here at any given time. My Discord is open 24/7, so please, if you would like to join my Discord channel, let me know that you would like to join part of these conversations, and throw some input, throw some ideas out there. I would love to have you on here. Let people hear your voice, hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, because again, this is an open discussion. It's not just me, you know, expressing my ideas, but I want to hear others as well. So I love getting that feedback and having that open dialogue with you know, anyone who's willing to jump in here and do that with me. If not, the chat is always open, and I appreciate the individuals who have helped contribute, you know, via chat tonight. It's really helping me progress the conversation and continue on with it. So again, thank you all for showing up, and you know, have a good night, and we'll be on tomorrow night, and we'll see what we can get into then. Thanks, guys.